Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. In today's video we're going to be looking at how to adapt your skirt block, which is bespoke to your measurements, to make a simple A-line skirt. Now this is a very versatile skirt. You can wear it any sort of length, like mini, knee, midi, maxi, whatever you want. It's a really great pattern to be able to learn how to do, and I'm really excited to show you how to do it today. We've got some really fun dart manipulations to look at today, and it's going to be great. So let's crack on. In order to do this video, you're going to need your pattern drafting ruler, you're going to need your body block, which you've done in previous sessions with me, you're going to need some tracing paper, some coloured pencils, some scissors, and ultimately also some fabric. We're going to be using calico, just because that's really simple to show you and demo and do a quick twirl. So come on then, let's go for it. To start off with, I want you to trace over your own skirt block, which is bespoke to your body measurements. I've demonstrated how to do that in previous videos, so take a look back there if you need to. For the purpose of this demo, I've just printed off my skirt block, but you will have traced over yours and will be manipulating that tracing rather than your original body block. So we've got our two skirt pieces, we've got the skirt back and skirt front. We're going to start by looking at the skirt front pattern piece. The first thing we're going to do is to measure the distance of our waist on either side of the dart. I'm going to use a tape measure to do this because it's a curved line. Take that measurement and divide it by 3. Then I want you to mark on from the centre front 1/3 of the overall waist. And then measure another 1/3 along from there. If you want to, you can then just double check that you've got the same amount on either side of the dart at this point. We're now going to transfer this dart volume and relocate it into these two new locations. So basically we're going to halve the overall width of this dart here and put half of the volume there and half of the volume here. The length of both of these two new darts is going to be the same as the existing. So to start off with, measure the length of your dart and then draw 2 perpendicular lines from your new 2 dart locations, the same length as your original dart. Next, measure the width of this dart here. Divide the width of the dart by 2, and that then becomes your new overall volume for this dart here. So for me, this was 2.5, I divided it by 2, so I know that the volume of each of these needs to be 1.25, and so I'm going to offset from the centre line 1.25 divided by 2. So I'm going to offset to either side of my line 0.6 centimetres or 6 mil. And then just join the top of the dart down to the centre and draw in those darts. From the base of your 2 new darts, I want you to draw 2 vertical lines down to the hem. Grab a pair of scissors and then cut up these lines. I'm then going to remove the dart by cutting it out on both of these 2 pieces. At this point you might want to just secure your centre piece with some masking tape, just so it doesn't move around. Great, okay, so now this gets to the fun part. We're going to start to remove those darts and add that volume into the A-line skirt. So to start off with, take out that 1 dart piece. We've got these all nicely lined up here. And we're going to pivot at this point here and move that skirt so that we've closed up the dart and added the volume to the bottom instead. Just get that nice and accurate, line up the waist to make sure that's all really good. And just stick that down. We're then going to do the same for the other piece here. We're going to remove that dart piece, pivot at this point down here, and push that round. Depending on how big your darts are, you will have more or less volume down here. Once you've provided the volume to the skirt by closing up those darts, just then measure and check that the openings of both of these areas at the bottom along the hem is the same. and that's going to then create a nice even amount of volume across the front of the skirt. The only extra little bit that we need to do is just to add a little bit of extra flare to the side, and we're just going to add a standard 2.5 centimetres at this point. We're going to add the 2.5 at the hem, and we're just going to be joining that up to the hip line up here. And grab your tracing paper and lay your tracing paper over your pattern pieces so that you can trace over your body block and add in all the extra bits that you need. So we're going to start adding in our seam allowances now to actually make our pattern piece out of our body block. All I'm going to do is show you the construction of how to put the actual skirt pieces together. We will cover how to do waistbands and facings in a later series, so it's up to you what you want to do with your waistband and your hem. You may choose to add a 2 centimetre extra bit onto your hem to allow you to roll it up, and likewise with the top you could add 1 centimetre, 1.5, 2 centimetres, roll it under and sew it round, but I expect you probably want to put a waistband on that at some point. So like I said, we'll cover that later. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to show you the basic construction of the pieces. I'm just going to use my pattern drafting ruler at this 4 centimetre line, that dotted line. I just want to raise my hemline a little bit on this skirt. I want it to be a bit higher than the knee. So I'm just going to do that, like that, and then I'm just going to join up those lines with a nice little gentle curve, so the skirt has a nice curve along the bottom. Now by raising it up by 4 centimetres, I've effectively raised the skirt by 5.5 because we've got to allow a little bit of a hem at the bottom of the skirt. At this point, we've added in our seam allowances. Our 1.5 centimetre seam allowance to our waist, to our side seam. We've not added one to our centre front because this will be placed on the fold. And I've raised my hemline by 4 centimetres, which allows for a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance and an oval. And I've raised my hem by 4 centimetres. And next we're just going to add in our standard annotation for our pattern piece. We want our grain line to follow the centre front line on the skirt pattern piece, so it's going to be running parallel with this line down here. So draw in a line onto your pattern piece that is parallel with that line and annotate it as the grain line. Annotate your skirt piece with the pattern name, with the location of the waist, the hip, the side seam. Note that it also needs to be placed on the fold down the centre front line. Once you've added all your annotation, you can then cut it out. We're going to move on now to our skirt back piece. The process with our skirt back piece is slightly different to our skirt front because we've got 2 darts at the back and we're going to be keeping one of them. But we're going to be shifting darts around and adding volume in slightly different locations. So follow me and we'll show you how to do it. We've got 2 darts at this location. So to start off with, I want you to measure the distance of those 2 darts. Because everybody's body block is different, one dart for you may be slightly wider than the other one, and one might be slightly longer than the other one. So I just want you to measure the distance of the overall volume we're taking out of both of those darts to start off with. For me, both those darts are 2 centimetres across, so I've got a total of 4 centimetres in total. The next thing I want you to do is to measure the distance between your 2 darts. For everyone, that will be something different. For me, that's 5.5. And then I want you to find the midpoint between these 2. Check the length of both of those darts. That one is 13, this one is 14. I want you to draw a line now from your new dart location, which is here, and we're just going to draw a line parallel with the waist, and it's going to be halfway between the length of this one and this one. So for me, it will just be 13.5 centimetres. Now we want to move one of these darts across to here. So for me, my dart's 2 centimetres. So I'm going to offset a point at the top of this line, 1 centimetre to either side. For you, you do your maths, take the volume of that, divide it by 2 and offset the distance to either side. Again, you should be using a nice sharp pencil to be doing these. And then draw in your new dart. Next, we're going to be reducing our existing darts by half and making them smaller. So for me, my 2 darts are 2 centimetres wide in total. So I want to make them 1 centimetre wide in total. So to start off with, just draw the centre point of your dart and then offset the distance you need from either side. Draw in your new dart. Repeat that process for the other dart. Next, we're going to drop a vertical line from the bottom of the dart down to the hemline. So this is going to be perpendicular to the hem. This time I'm just going to cut up to the base of the dart and then stop. Okay, so we've cut out half the volume of both of these two darts, and we've cut out, just leaving a small pivot point at the bottom of those two darts there and there. What we want to do now is to just close up those darts like that and like that. Now ideally the amount that we've opened up here will be the same for both pieces. And they can be the same as the front as well. So for me, I was opening up the dart by 3.5. I'll just stick that down so it doesn't move around. And then another 3.5 at this point here. Once again, we're then going to add 2.5 centimetres to our side seam. So mark a point at the bottom of the hem, 2.5 centimetres away. And then just join that line up to the hip line. We're now going to add our seam allowances onto the back piece. I'm raising my hem by 4 centimetres, but you can do whatever you want with your hem. And don't forget to use your pattern drafting ruler just to curve off the differences so you're connecting all those segments nicely. So we've added a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance to our side seam. We've added nothing onto our centre back because that will be placed on the fold. We've raised our hemline by our desired amount, and we've added a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance to the waist. We've also drawn in our dart, the one dart we moved, and popped it in there. It's now time to annotate the pattern piece. We've annotated our pattern piece to tell us this is the waist, the hips, side seam, centre back, to place on the fold, and we've named our skirt, A-line skirt, skirt back, cut 1 on fold. Once you've done that, you can then cut it out. Once you've cut out your pattern pieces, you can then use calico to actually cut out your pattern pieces out of fabric. So off you go do that now, and then come back and join me. So we're working with the A-line skirt, and the first thing we're just going to do is transfer our dart marking on the back of the skirt. Next, we're just going to mark in the notches for the hips. And then for our front piece, I'm just going to mark the notch for the hips. That's all we need to do on this piece. The first bit of prep that we're going to do for sewing is just to pin and sew the darts in place on the back of the skirt. Press the darts towards the side seam. With the right sides together, we're now going to pin and stitch the two side seams. Don't forget to leave an opening from the waist down to the hip on the left-hand side of the garment so that you can get in and out of your skirt. Turn your waistband under by 1.5 centimetres, or however you have drafted it. Sew that in place, and do the same for the hem if you've allowed for a hem allowance as well. Obviously at this point you don't have to draft a hemline or a waistband if you're just sort of seeing what the fit is like. There's no need to do that if this is just a draft for the sake of just exploring shape together. Excellent. Okay, so we have now finished sewing up our A-line skirt. It's looking good. If you would like to go and try that on now, see what it looks like. This is the standard A-line skirt. This one has all the darts taken out at the front, and then at the back you can see that it has got the two darts still at that point there, which just mean that the volume is still there. There's still a reasonable amount of volume, but it's not super duper flared. It's just a really nice standard block from which you can then draft and add loads of other drama into the skirt pattern piece if you want to. But this, along with the straight skirt, are both really common starting points for other skirts and other dresses. So yeah, this is what it looks like. Well done for creating yours. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning how to sew an A-line skirt from your skirt block. I hope you've really enjoyed the process. I've had lots of fun explaining that all to you, and I hope it's made loads of sense. If you've got any comments about the video, please do feel free just to add your comments below in the comments box. We always love to hear from you guys. And as ever, we'd love to see your version of this particular skirt, so please do join our maker community here at Minerva and upload your photos so we can see and the rest of the community can see what you're making and creating. It's always really exciting to see how everyone sort of interprets things and the creativity that you bring to the pattern making process. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you've really enjoyed the process. There are loads more videos to watch, so feel free just to click away and keep watching. Hope you really enjoy this creative journey with me. Thank you for joining me.